Hello and welcome to HBM's Cryptid-Corner for Wednesday, December 4th, 2024. We have quite a few things to talk about, so let's get started. First of all, we start off unraveling Bigfoot hair color patterns, southern versus western U.S. Have you ever wondered if the Sasquatch in the southern United States are the same species as those out west? This idea of multiple Bigfoot species is a hot topic among researchers and is mostly based off the varying physical traits of Sasquatch across the continent. While I can't confirm or deny this, I can tell you what the data says about these differences in appearances of Sasquatch across different regions of the USA. A recent video from the YouTube channel Sasquatch Data Project explores the potential originality of Sasquatch traits by investigating if the differences in hair color frequencies between the South and the West are statistically significant. The video's creator, a self-proclaimed numbers girl, uses the Sasquatch Data Project dataset, which is composed of 1,220 paranormal reports from the BFRO Witness Testimony Database. She has analyzed 598 reports from the South and 492 reports from the West, all of which are Class A sightings, meaning the witness undoubtedly saw an ape of unclassified species in North America. The video dives into the numbers and uses a chi-square test to identify any potential correlations within the categorical data. The test particularly focuses on the p-value, which tells us how likely the pattern we are observing in the data is due to random chance. A p-value under 0.5 indicates that the pattern is not due to random chance, but due to some other reason, whether it be human, environmental, or due to differences in the Sasquatch themselves. So it's most likely a pretty interesting video. I'll have to check it out. It sounds like a pretty interesting project to kind of correlate Sasquatch hair color between regions and what particular color are people seeing in different places. Very interesting study. Top rated Bigfoot movies. Dive into the legendary film collection. Bigfoot has been a source of fascination for filmmakers for decades, and there are countless movies that explore the legend of this mysterious giant. A recent video on Marvelous Video's YouTube channel counts down the top 20 Bigfoot movies of all time. It's definitely worth a watch for any Bigfoot enthusiast. The video includes a range of films from the 1972 docudrama The Legend of Boggy Creek to the 2018 horror flick Primal Rage. Each movie offers a unique take on the Bigfoot legend, and they all blur the line between myth and reality in their own way. One standout film on the list is Letters from the Big Man, a 2011 movie about an artist and government hydrologist named Sarah who encounters a Bigfoot in the wilderness of Oregon. Unlike most portrayals of Bigfoot, this creature is depicted as intelligent, gentle, and capable of telepathic communication. Sarah's experiences with the Bigfoot lead her to question her own beliefs and the impact of human activity on the environment. And it's very woo. I must warn those who want to see the movie, it's very woo. But the suit is really good. Now, obviously, I think there's the Exist suit. So I'm pretty sure that one's on there too. I haven't seen this video, but I definitely want to check it out for sure. This one looks pretty terrifying. I think this is one from Primal Rage. I'm not sure what movie this is from. Very interesting. Another compilation of different Bigfoot movies and a list of their top 20. Good stuff. Speaking of good stuff, exploring Smoky Mountain's Bigfoot lore, family history, and local legends. On the Trail of Bigfoot, the Ancients, Some Small Town Monsters, is now available on their YouTube channel. The Smoky Mountains of western North Carolina have long been a source of intrigue and mystery, and the YouTube channel Small Town Monsters recently explored this beautiful and rugged landscape in their film The Ancients on the Trail of Bigfoot. The film delves into the rich history of the area as well as the stories and legends that have been passed down through generations of local families. One of the families featured in the film is the Breedlove family, who have lived in the Needmore community near the Little Tennessee River for decades. The Breedloves have a deep connection to the land and its history, and they share stories of their ancestors who settled the area in the early 1800s. They also talk about the lore and warnings that have been passed down through the years about the dangers of the woods, including the presence of a mysterious creature known as the Boogerman or Boogeyman. And it's an excellent movie. I've seen it already. I was granted access to it about 2 months ago, thanks to Seth Breedlove's generosity. So I saw it months ago, long before it was uploaded to their YouTube channel. But I am glad it's now on YouTube for people to see. It's the length of a movie, but it's well worth seeing, and it really flows. It really goes by pretty quick. So it's not a slog to get through at all, thankfully. So I do highly recommend seeing it if you haven't seen it yet. It's now on YouTube. You have your opportunity now. If you're a YouTube subscriber, or if you peruse YouTube, you can check it out for yourself. And some unfortunate news, the man who saw Sasquatch is closing his California museum for good. That being Mike Rugg, the owner of the Bigfoot Discovery Museum. On the side of Highway 9 deep in the Santa Cruz Mountains, the barn-like exterior of the Bigfoot Discovery Museum has been beckoning believers and skeptics alike for the past 2 decades. Now one of the most unusual museums of its kind in California is closing for good. Good Times Santa Cruz first reported the news in late October after longtime proprietor and curator Michael Rugg listed the property on the market. Rugg told the outlet he expected to sell most of the exhibits and memorabilia in the near future, including plaster feet and handprints, newspaper clippings, a map of local sightings, and an aging iMac that played the famed Patterson-Gimlin footage of the Sasquatch on a loop. I wonder who's going to get the bulk of the collection, because he has quite a collection. Like I say, I wonder who's going to get it. I think perhaps Cliff Barackman could possibly buy some of it. Hopefully Cliff has gone on ahead and done that. But it's unfortunate to see this museum closing its doors for good. But you still have the Willow Creek Museum in Northern California. Willow Creek China Flat Museum with the Bigfoot display there. Plus, of course, Cliff's Museum. Cliff Barackman's Museum, the North American Bigfoot Center in Boring, Oregon. And heck, there's even one in West Virginia, a Bigfoot museum. So the entire idea of Bigfoot museums is not dead yet, thankfully. America's only cryptozoology museum is an East Coast attraction with creatures and unsolved legends. Have you ever wondered about undiscovered species such as Yeti, Bigfoot, mermaids, and the Loch Ness Monster? At the International Cryptozoology Museum in Maine, you can dive into the world of the unknown and the mysterious. Cryptozoology, the study of animals whose existence remains unverified by science, explores tales of fantastical creatures like the Kraken and Nessie, blurring the lines between myth and reality. While skeptics may question their legitimacy, the countless stories and cultural fascination surrounding these cryptids persist. At the heart of it all, the International Cryptozoology Museum seeks to educate, inform, and spark curiosity, sharing its extensive collection with visitors from around the globe. Fans of weird exhibitions might also enjoy a trip to Italy's Park of Monsters, which features a bizarre garden filled with unsettling sculptures that defy explanation. But wouldn't you have to go to Italy to see that? I think you would. And this is in Portland, Maine, this museum is, obviously. So this museum is still going strong, and Lauren Coleman is hoping to have a second branch. Or I think he's trying to get it moved to a different facility, which hopefully will happen next year in 2025 or possibly 2026. But for now, the original location is still where it is in Portland, Maine. But Lauren is hoping to get everything moved over to the new location. I certainly hope so. I would love to see this museum one day myself. Maybe I'll get the chance one of these days. Here's something interesting. The actor of the hydroplanic sea serpent of the White Star Line. Less than a year before the Titanic sunk, another ocean liner from the same fleet encountered a dragon-like sea beast that seemed to emerge from ancient myth. The primary witness was a famous Broadway stage actor. Austin H. Clark, zoologist and marine biologist at the Smithsonian's National Museum of Natural History in Washington, D.C., declared in 1930 that modern steamships had destroyed the fables about sea serpents residing in American waters and beyond. It might be true that humankind's conquering of the oceans dispelled the old fears of ancient mariners who were tossed about the sea in rickety wooden boats. By the dawn of the 20th century, thousands of passengers were riding high on steel behemoths that could cross the Atlantic Ocean in mere days. But accounts of sea serpents still trickled out into the press during this era. In fact, a spectacular sighting occurred in 1911 aboard one of the world's largest ocean liners operated by the White Star Line, the same company whose hubris would be tragically tempered by the loss of its unsinkable Titanic less than a year later. And the primary witness was one of the most famous actors of his day. Victorian matinee idol Robert Hilliard, the handsomest man on the American stage, essentially the George Clooney of the 1870s, was known for his sartorial appearance and performance in He-Man roles during his Broadway heyday. Hilliard was celebrated for his immaculate dress, a striking figure on Manhattan streets. He wore a white carnation in his lapel that matched the silver whiteness of his hair in later years. Hilliard's greatest success was his starring role in A Fool There Was, described contemporarily as a daring and realistic play that startled New Yorkers from their Lenten lethargy like a sudden explosion of dramatic dynamite. Hilliard began his run with the play at the Liberty Theater on Broadway in March 1909 and continued to tour with the show for several years. Apparently he was on the RMS Celtic on June 4th, 1911. Sea serpent, witnesses differ as to its length, was sighted holding a bewhiskered calf-like head 10 feet above water. Behind where the ears ought to have been were two wings extending outward about 10 feet, thus giving the saurian monster the appearance of an aeroplane skimming over the sea. The steward, in fact, described it as a monoplane sea serpent, wrote the New York Times. The serpent, according to Hilliard and the steward, was either pursuing a school of whales or keeping company with them. The steward claimed that the sea serpent turned a pair of large, mournful green eyes toward the spectators on the Celtic's deck. Then it passed on its monoplanic way, dipping up and down just like that, but otherwise holding its head erect. Behind it appeared at intervals a dark green body, moving through the water with a wiggly motion. According to the Times, Captain A.E.S. Hamilton did not enter the incident in the Celtic's log, unsurprisingly. So, could the George Clooney of the 1870s have seen a sea serpent? It's entirely possible. I don't know. He claims to have seen it. And the thing is, he wasn't the only witness. There was also another witness, a steward, on board the ship. So, that's corroboration when you have more than one witness. So it's entirely possible that this sighting actually did take place, and that it was a sea serpent. Very interesting. Here's one. 9 famous people that believe in Bigfoot. If you believe in Bigfoot, Sasquatch, or Yeti, you're not alone. In fact, there are some pretty famous people that are at least open to the idea of Bigfoot's existence. Celebrities, TV hosts, and even presidents have shared stories about the elusive creature. Here are some of those famous people and their stories. Dan Aykroyd is one of them. He has seen a UFO apparently. Rob Lowe. When he was on the Lowe Files, he had 2 episodes on Bigfoot, and one on the Bigfoot, one on the Wood Ape, with the NAWAC, the North American Wood Ape Conservancy. Dean Cain, he hosted the $10 million Bigfoot bounty on Spike TV in 2014. Megan Fox apparently is a believer. Former U.S. President Teddy Roosevelt wrote in The Wilderness Hunter that he believed that story. Bobcat Goldthwait directed Willow Creek, and he was at the Ohio Bigfoot Conference in 2016. Les Stroud, of course, he is now creating his own full-length documentary. Anna Marie Goddard actually had a sighting, or says she had a sighting, the infamous Redwoods video, or the Playmate video, as it were, because Anna Marie Goddard was a Playboy Playmate. The cast of Finding Bigfoot. Renee has never seen anything, never seen a Sasquatch. Bubbo has had several sightings. Cliff has had at least one through a thermal. Matt Moneymaker has had multiple sightings. The one individual that they don't list is Matt LeBlanc, Joey from Friends. He's a believer. Yes, Matt LeBlanc is a believer. I believe also Jack Black is a believer. So that's a couple of other celebrities that, yes, are believers of Sasquatch, or at least are open-minded about it. So I'm surprised they didn't have Matt LeBlanc on this list. Kind of wish they had. Oh well. Finally, Sharon A. Hill has given her review of Lost Monster Files, which was supposed to be about Ivan T. Sanderson's extensive cryptid files. Lost Monster Files is a cryptid bust. It would be awesome if there were no more fake science TV shows. Back in 2017, I published a book on how amateur paranormal researchers pretend to do science. Around that time, there were so many TV and YouTube shows of people doing this, staging investigations using sciencey looking gadgets and language, and playing at being experts, that I couldn't keep track of them all anymore. Unfortunately, they are still going strong. Cryptozoology is my favorite fringe subject, but it's not fringe anymore, it's mainstream. We can credit Monster Quest and Finding Bigfoot for the current popularity of self-styled cryptozoologists looking for mystery creatures. The latest cryptid show is Lost Monster Files on Discovery Channel, based on the files of Ivan T. Sanderson. It's not low budget, but it's low in originality and almost insultingly dumb. I realize that people want to be on TV and hope to make a living doing stuff like this, but I argue that these shows make the audience less knowledgeable about the topic because of the dumbing down of the presented scenarios and exceptionally poor content passed off as facts. Now, I'm not going to go into her full reviews, but suffice it to say, she wasn't impressed with this show. Now, Sharon A. Hill is a skeptic, and I know a lot of people who think, oh, what does she know? She's a daggum skeptic. Of course she's going to trash the show. Or maybe it was just a bad show. Maybe it's just a bad show. I never actually watched any episodes of it. And maybe based on her reviews, maybe that's a good thing. Now, episode 1 explored the Carolina Chupacabra. Episode 2, the work on the abominable snowman or Yeti. Episode 3 on the Thunderbird. Episode 4 was Minnesota Iceman. About the Minnesota Iceman. Episode 5 was about the Kodiak Sea Monster. And the Cave Dragon was the final episode. But in that episode, spoiler alert, they actually found an alligator in a cave in Arkansas. I'm like, what? Really? It was about 80 miles from natural alligator habitat. Seems likely it was let loose there. I'm not saying it was planted, but it could have been released by an irresponsible person, but I can't trust anything on this show. Common threads in the episodes. Over the 6 episodes, there were common threads. Number 1, oversimplification. In order to appeal to the non-technical viewer, to fit in an hour time frame and to help the narrative, every scenario, find, and explanation was oversimplified, often to the extent that it was wrong. It was framed as, Sanderson studied this. There is an uptick in sighting of something like that in this area. Therefore, Sanderson was onto something, and we are going to just jump in and finish what he started. This is a dull, banal, and misleading premise. Thus, my opinion is that this show makes people less well informed on the topics covered. Lack of expertise. Almost no experts appeared on the show. As I noted in the first review, the cast were hardly what I would consider experts. They spoke unintelligently about complex topics like evolution, zoology, geography, and history. The writers and research team for this show did a poor job. Brittany, in particular, was not even kosher on how to pronounce words correctly. For example, Cuvier, as in Georges Cuvier, was pronounced Curvier twice. There is no excuse for such sloppiness. Sham inquiry. Number 3. I was entirely unconvinced that the investigation shown on screen was legitimate. It looked staged, heavily edited and scripted to serve the preset narrative. This is typical of all paranormal nonfiction shows, an attempt to portray a scientific approach which instead shows the cast playing pretend scientists. It's a cheap and lazy ploy. extreme conclusions. The obviously weak and questionable evidence was hyped as convincing and used to bolster their pre-existing narrative that they were successful in showing that something mysterious was going on. That's how an entertainment show is structured. This is not for educational purposes. But that message is not always understood by the audience. In conclusion, this was a typical scientific paranormal TV show with hype and no substance. It wasn't even entertaining. For anyone who knows anything about cryptids, the show was a total dud. Wow. Interesting. So it looks like it was just a bad show. I mean, Sharon A. Hill gave it a fair shot, gave it a fair break. Unfortunately, it's just a bad show. Sounds like. It sounds like I'm glad I missed it. So thanks, Sharon Hill, for the public service announcement on this show. Very helpful. Finally, I want to make an announcement. The VIP ticket sales for the Ohio Bigfoot Conference 2025 were supposed to take place this past Sunday at noon Eastern, but unfortunately Mark DeWorth had a family emergency, so he wasn't able to have those sales on that day, but he is going to have them next Saturday at noon Eastern at OhioBigfootConference.com. And the good thing is, I've already got my ticket. He gave me an early opportunity to get my ticket, so I got it. I have a ticket and a way to get there. So I will be at the Ohio Bigfoot Conference next May. I'm pretty excited about that, so yeah. But Mark had a family emergency, like I said, so that's why there were no ticket sales this past Sunday. But they will take place this upcoming Saturday, December 7th. That'll be a nice early Christmas present for somebody, for whoever can get a ticket for the OBC. I've already got mine. Make sure to get yours. And that's going to do it for this week. We want to thank you very much for tuning in. You guys are the heart of the show. I always say that, but I always mean it, and I'll continue this as long as you guys want me to. And hey, until next week, y'all be good or be good at it. This is HBM's Crypto Corner.